This morning, an investigation is underway in Lorain County after a poll worker was seen taking a bag of blank provisional ballots into a bar on Monday. The Lorain County Board of Elections and the Sheriff's Office say the worker claimed their car broke down and they were waiting for a ride. The Board of Elections says the seal on the bag was not broken and none of the provisional ballots were missing or altered. Sure.
Well, before Election Day, this video of a poll worker bringing blank ballots inside of a bar. Surveillance video showing that worker walking away while he enjoys his lunch. The obvious question, what were those ballots doing at the bar in the first place?
Lorain County Board of Elections tells me this poll manager has been removed from his position. They say he brought those blank ballots with him while he was grabbing lunch at this bar across the street. This surveillance video captured Monday is from Madhouse Bar and Grill in Elyria. Two men walking into the bar, one carrying large bags, then one of them, identified as a Lorain County poll manager, setting down the bags filled with blank provisional ballots at a table. The owner, James Tucker, was surprised when he saw what the bag was carrying.
After he ordered his dinner, he went over and started stuffing these bags, which we could see on them. They said ballot on it, which I'm like, whoa, that don't look right,
The Lorain County Board of Elections and the Sheriff's Office both say they began investigating immediately.
That was a great concern for us, and what are the reasons why that person is no longer in that role and has been replaced and been removed from his position.
Paul Adams is the director for the Lorain County Board of Elections. He says it is not unusual for poll workers to pick up supplies the day before the election.
We generally direct our poll workers to take those home, keep those safe.
Officials identifying the polling place manager as Mark Provenza, a former city law director.
I know they've been with us for a handful of years, certainly long enough to know better than to do something of this nature.
Adams says Provenza was waiting on a ride and left it a ride share. The Board of Elections says none of those ballots were tampered with.
Tonight, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger calling on the Department of Justice to investigate Fulton County elections after two employees allegedly shredded hundreds of voter registration applications.
We believe that approximately 300 voter registration applications are at issue.
Richard Barron, the county's elections director, says the employees checked out batches of applications for processing, but instead of fully processing them, the employees are believed to have shredded some of the forms.
Fellow employees reported this behavior to their supervisor on Friday morning, and the employees were terminated the same day.
Many wondering tonight, so was it a voter fraud scheme or something else? Investigators are now trying to determine why it is that more than 300 recall ballots were found inside a man's car at this 7-Eleven in Torrance. More than 300 mail-in ballots for the governor's recall race were found inside a car parked at this Torrance 7-Eleven with a man sleeping inside of it.
So that's kind of the part where we're at now with this investigation. Is everyone wants to know two questions. Why were the ballots in his vehicle? What was his intent with those ballots? And that's what we're trying to figure out.
It was an employee at the convenience store on Emerald Street near Hawthorne Boulevard that alerted police last Monday around 10:45 p.m. about the man sleeping in his driver's seat. And stolen ballots weren't all police found inside the car. There was Xanax, a gun, meth, and other mail.
He was arrested on several charges related to possession of the firearm, the narcotics, the theft of identity theft, as well as receiving stolen property and some other charges as well.
Several agencies, including Torrance Police, the U.S. Postal Service, and the LA County District Attorney's Office, are now investigating how these stolen ballots ended up inside a convicted felon's back seat. Police say most of the ballots were for Lawndale residents and a few for Compton.
We have been working with the registrar's office to get them a list of all those names that were on those ballots so they can be notified, and then new ballots can be resent to them in time.
Kent County man is facing felony charges involving election fraud. Sheriff's investigators say James Donald Hokabor was seen tampering with a machine at a voting precinct during this summer's primary election.
I have no more comments.
No more comment?
I'm done.
All right. That's the voice of James Holkabor outside his home in Gaines Township about an hour after felony charges were announced against him by the Kent County prosecutor.
I got to talk to my lawyer and all that stuff first.
Holkabor is facing 2 election fraud felonies, falsifying records and using a computer to commit a crime. He worked at the Precinct 8 polling location in Gaines Township, where a witness says they saw him put a personal USB drive into the electronic poll book, which contains voter registration data. There are more than 2,500 registered voters in this precinct, and their confidential and personal information could be at risk.
Williamson County officials say human error caused a mistake on the ballot for early voting in the Leander area. Hundreds of ballots for Emergency Service District 9 did not include a sales tax proposition. Election officials say the proposition was missing from 879 ballots, and 18 people had already voted by the time they discovered the mistake. Starting tomorrow, all 879 voters will be able to vote on the proposition on a separate ballot.
This election cycle, 240,000 absentee ballots have been sent out from the supervisor of elections. 60,000 of those have made their way back, but they were returned yesterday. But yesterday they found out that some of those ballots were faulty, missing an important amendment issue. How many ballots without the Amendment 2 issue have you verified?
2.
Broward Supervisor of Elections Dr. Brenda C. Snipes held a news conference to explain why 2 voters in Oakland Park received absentee ballots with Amendment 2 missing. The amendment would legalize medical marijuana, and today at Nova Southeastern University there was a debate held on the hot topic, and some proponents of it have even filed a lawsuit over the error.
It's very concerning. In 2014, we lost the election by a very slim margin, 2.3%. And we know that every vote is going to count in this election.
We did reissue a new ballot to the voter and to her husband.
Dr. Snipes says 92 different styles of ballots are printed in Broward County because of different local races.
We have not received calls from any other voters that that amendment is missing.
She says when an Oakland Park candidate for city commission dropped out late in the race, 7 new test ballots were printed for coding purposes only, but they were incomplete and may have gotten inadvertently mailed out, but she is not 100% sure. Her office has had other issues this election cycle, issuing primary returns too early, and an incorrect translation on Creole ballots was discovered just last week.
Kujichagulia.